Yeah, I was encouraged by the win today. I was encouraged by how our team played for the majority of the game. I think our quarterback had a very strong day, not only in accuracy on completion percentage, but on the downfield throws, which we had talked about from a week ago. Offensive front, I think, played their most complete game in terms of protection and targeting that allowed a more successful ground game, and probably the most complete game offensively, at least in our short time here at UVA. I think the team played better today than it played last week, and I think last week the team played better than the week before. So we're still improving. There are areas to address. However, the momentum that it generates and the start to the season is always helpful. So as we go forward, a significant step forward offensively. I think defensively they played really well in critical moments for about 3 quarters, and then really had to learn what it's like to play when you're that far ahead in terms of mindset and when there's some substitutions and things like that. So special teams wise, man, hard to remember other than there was a long kick return that worked its way in there somewhere. I don't remember much else in terms of making comment there, which probably means it was fairly steady. So I'll take questions.
Could you talk about it, Alameda? I think we figured out he had 225 all-purpose yards.
Yeah, probably the closest we've come yet to putting him in the right places and doing the things that he's capable of so far in our tenure here at UVA. He's versatile and he's becoming reliable, and there's a lot of different things he can do. It seems like we're just starting to add some consistency and production to that, which is going to be helpful to us.
Bronco, I don't know if you know this, Kurt set the school passing record with 455 yards. You mentioned the protection was as good as it's been. Was that what allowed him to throw down the field? What was working offensively that opened up those deep throws for Kurt?
It was part of what's working, but anytime the defense, if there's a matchup in our favor, and they became more aggressive in playing man and man-free coverage, and when that happens, you just simply look at the matchups, and some of those were in our favor. And it's one thing to recognize the matchup; it's another thing to execute and then put the ball where it needs to be, which Kurt did. And so again, our offense was multiple. It was hard to defend, and pretty complete. And so eventually, we just became better at identifying where the matchups were, and Kurt and the receivers took advantage of that.
Kurt was not particularly happy with his play after the Indiana game. Did he have a notable week of practice? Did you see this coming at all, and did you feel like he had something to prove?
I saw a similar week of practice as to what I've seen for really throughout his time this season and through spring practice and through fall camp. I think all that's happening is there's just certain thresholds that are hit through cumulative repetition at the right standard, and then sometimes that breaks through versus an opponent, and then there could be another area that needs to be diagnosed and improved on. But his best game, I believe, today, but he's consistent in practice. There wasn't anything to going into the week that was, or through the week that was like, oh, wait till we see him play Saturday. It was just a normal week for him.
Coach, obviously the offense took advantage, but defensively, the 2 fourth-down stops, the 2 red zone turnovers, how key were they to kind of setting the tone for how today unfolded?
Huge. One of the things we targeted from a week ago was if there happens to be a short field defensively, then playing well. And we did that right from the beginning, as well as the 4th down stops, as well as the 2-point conversion stops. There might have been 3 of those, I think, or 2. I don't know how many. So critical moment play was pretty strong defensively. Lacked consistency in the 4th quarter, especially.
What did you think in terms of Brenton, his ability to play?
Like him a lot. Tackling, covering, and just methodically going about making plays. I really thought he played well.
Talked about the offensive line play. Obviously, there was a switch there. It's basically how you ended last week. I think you started this week with Rinkensmeyer at center, and you shifted over Feeler. What did you like about that group last week, and what do you think they did particularly well today?
Just kind of what you saw today. it just seemed to be a little bit more consistent, a little bit more cohesive, and a little bit more productive. And so we started to see that at the end of last week, and I think it just continued on this week. So I think it's been a good step for us so far.
Coach, talk a little bit about, it just seems like even last week you mentioned how the team got better from week 1 to week 2 and then week 2 to week 3, but just seems like this team is very confident right now. Just talk about the confidences of the team, particularly with their success they're having early.
Confidence is earned. We work really hard in practice. We work really hard in our meetings. The program works really hard year-round. And just to emphasize, we're still at the beginning of this process, and we're still at the beginning of this program. But it is so much fun for me to see the people in the program see the results on the field and be able to enjoy that rather than just the day-to-day that we have together. It's really gratifying to see them happy and enjoying playing UVA football and having success.
Coach, we'll all focus on the 455 yards passing, but the 171 on the ground probably is as important as anything else, opening up the passing game. Was there something in the scheme that you saw that you thought you guys could take advantage of on the ground, or a lot of that just comes from the offense opening up a little bit?
Part of it, each and every week, the matchups are different versus the offense versus the defense. Those matchups are different, and so UCONN is 3-3-5. Robert and I was at Arizona when they were a 3-3-5 defense, and my background is 3-3-5, and Rocky Long in the Mountain West Conference was 3-3-5, and so there's been lots of time spent on knowing how to compete and play against that system, and the plan was very good. Our offensive staff put together a really nice plan versus something that we've put a lot of time into dissecting, and then the execution was strong.
Coach, when you look at the design QB runs from UConn, is the success that they have a product of just where the game is and the game plan maybe being adjusted because of the score, or is there something that you guys have noticed because of that?
Kind of both. I think so we've shown some susceptibility through week 1 and week 2 going into this game of non-traditional runs being one of the ways, maybe the primary way an offense can move the ball against us. And so I think besides having mobile quarterbacks, which UConn has, I think they looked at possibly where we're still developing our game, match those two things together, and that became, the core part of what they were doing. And already part of their identity was tricks and gadgets, so they hit one of those today on a long field score, and then unique formations and motions and stuff. And so their scheme is strong. Auburn has had a lot of success offensively. They're just at the beginning, much like we are and were, and so, but I think it has a chance to be very, very good.
I'm sure I'll catch some grief from my colleagues here, but are you aware of the milestone that Daniel Ham reached today?
No.
He's now scored touchdowns in 5 seasons, each of 5 seasons. I think the first guy to do it here.
It's pretty cool. Daniel Ham is when you think about having program or key players in the program that you can rely on, that you would like to have examples and that would drive the culture. Cultures are passed on through telling stories, and there's a lot of Daniel Ham stories. Just the quality of person he is, and he's unselfish and productive, and so, yeah.
Would you let him cut your hair?
I would absolutely let him cut my hair. Yeah. We both would have to ask Holly first, I think, but I would, yeah.
Bronco, we saw Olamide obviously was involved. Olamide is involved in the kick return game. Joe Reed updated all. Did he go out in the first half?
Yeah, he went out early, and there was so much going on. I really don't have an update for you on that. So I don't have anything to say or any information as to what or why or how that happened.
Bronco, playing with a big lead can be tricky, as you alluded to. When it's 31-0 late in the third quarter, are you hoping that in the fourth quarter you'll be able to kind of substitute liberally and get the young guys in?
We are and were and did. And as you can see, well, especially from a defensive perspective, one guy at the wrong time at the wrong spot, that changes things dramatically. And but it's valuable because we need that work, and we're still developing the next tier of players. Again, I really like our team, but our roster is thin, and there's still a significant gap on both sides, all phases of the ball, between who we're playing with and who we're developing. And so it was fun to get some of them work, but we also saw kind of what that looks like.
2 more questions on this side.
Coach, how was the feel of the locker room celebration today? Was it any different than from the opening game victory?
Just they were more our team. It surprised me, and it's a great reminder, because sometimes, man, I'm already on to a short week in the next game, and our coaches will be going to the office right now to work on the next opponent, because Monday's a Tuesday, and we're a day ahead. And it was nice because man, they were grabbing anything that had water or fluid in it and throwing it and celebrating, and rightly so. And it was a nice reminder to me to not let those moments pass. It's a lot of hard work to get to winning a college football game and improving a program. And yeah, it was a really good reminder, just as a leader and as a head coach, to not shortchange those moments to where there's deserving celebration.
Last question from Mike.
Coach, Ed asked you about the running quarterbacks, but I think he had like 93 yards on 7 carries and then not much after that.
Yeah.
Did your guys play better, or did you tweak? Did you spy with Micah?
We tweaked it. There's trade-offs everywhere, and so the more that you kind of tighten things on the quarterback, there's more other things that possibly work. And so still dialing in the right mixture for this particular defense with players like that we've seen for a couple weeks. So each bit of it goes into the vault for improving us for the next game and what our guys can do. But it was a very specific attempt in schematic shift to take him away. But again, that opens up some other things, and eventually they found a few of those.
Okay, thank you. We have Daniel Pan.